Alright anime fans, today's story is pure chaos. Deep inside a cursed mountain filled with undead monsters and terrifying blood curses, Yuji Itadori and Megumi Fushiguro are forced into a brutal survival battle against enemies powerful enough to wipe out entire teams. But before we jump into the action, make sure to like the video, subscribe for more anime recaps, and drop a comment with your favorite Jujutsu Kaisen character. Now, let's enter the cursed mountain and get straight into the madness. A college student joins a global live-streamed Forbidden Zone exploration program. While the other contestants are retired Special Forces soldiers, mercenary kings, and ancient martial arts masters armed with high-tech rifles, grenades, drones, and compound bows, he and Satoru Gojo become partners, one carrying a sword and the other a blade. Their unusual pairing immediately catches everyone's attention. Unknown to the audience, the student had transmigrated into another world and awakened a special role-playing system. The more similar his actions and personality become to the character he imitates, the more power he gains. Once the synchronization reaches 100%, he can completely inherit that character's abilities and unlock a new one. Their destination is the mysterious Xiangxi 100,000 Mountains, a place feared throughout the region and filled with terrifying legends. Before entering the mountain, a cold and hostile martial arts master from another team glares at him with killing intent, clearly holding a grudge. Rumors say that after traveling 100 kilometers into the Forbidden Zone, teams are allowed to attack each other freely. Viewers in the live stream instantly begin mocking the student, believing he is nothing more than a weak college kid who offended the wrong people. Soon, all the contestants enter the mountain. Satoru Gojo silently walks ahead while the student follows behind him. The moment they step into the forest, the atmosphere changes completely. The temperature drops sharply, and an eerie cold fills the air. Yet unlike the cautious contestants creeping through the jungle, the two walk casually as if they were simply taking a stroll. An entire day passes without danger. They encounter no monsters, only a few harmless squirrels. As night falls, terrifying roars echo through the forest, causing the live stream audience to panic. Everyone knows the Forbidden Zone becomes far deadlier after dark. Among all the contestants, viewers are especially worried about the student and Satoru Gojo, since they are considered the weakest pair in the competition. When the camera focuses on them again, the audience is shocked. The student calmly sits beneath a tree eating wild fruit while Satoru Gojo casually prepares roasted rabbit for dinner. The live stream chat explodes with criticism. People call them idiots for cooking meat in the middle of the forest at night, claiming the smell of blood will attract deadly beasts. Others complain that the pair seems to think they are on a camping trip instead of a life-or-death expedition. However, once the rabbit is roasted, the delicious aroma fills the forest. Even the viewers watching from home become jealous of the meal. After cooking, Satoru Gojo tears off half of the meat and gives it to his teammate. Though the two barely speak, viewers notice that he quietly takes good care of his partner. After finishing the meal, Satoru Gojo suddenly leaps onto a tree with incredible agility, effortlessly running up the trunk before resting high among the branches. The audience is stunned, debating whether he used some kind of legendary martial arts technique or if he was simply extremely athletic. Then the cameras turn toward the student still standing below. Everyone assumes he will remain vulnerable on the ground. Some viewers even begin praying for his survival, convinced wild beasts will soon tear him apart. Instead, after calmly wiping his mouth, the student chooses another giant tree. In the blink of an eye, his body shoots upward like a phantom. Without grabbing branches or using support, he instantly jumps more than 10 meters into the air and lands securely on a high branch. The entire live stream erupts in chaos. People can't believe what they just witnessed. Some insist it must be a legendary movement technique from ancient martial arts. Others compare it to the famous cloud ladder technique said to exist in old martial arts sections. Even the program's director is left speechless and immediately orders the camera crew to focus more attention on the mysterious student. Inside the forest, the student quietly reflects on his growing power. His synchronization level has already reached 50%, increasing his physical abilities to 50 times that of a normal human. Jumping over 10 meters has become effortless for him. Watching from another tree, Satoru Gojo briefly narrows his eyes in surprise. At first, he thought the student was weak and intended to save him only if wild beasts attacked before sending him home the next day. But now, he realizes his new partner is far from ordinary. Meanwhile, the livestream audience completely changes their attitude. The same people who mocked the student moments ago fall silent, while countless fans begin praising him excitedly. Even martial arts experts watching from distant sects are stunned by the display of impossible movement skills. Beside him, his young disciple excitedly complained that she had wanted to join the Forbidden Zone expedition from the beginning, but her master refused to let her go. Now, after witnessing the mysterious student's movement technique, she worried that the legendary skills of their sect might be overshadowed by outsiders. The old man snorted and admitted that her martial arts had already reached the 7th level of mastery, meaning she was qualified enough to participate. However, the Xiangxi 100,000 Mountains were too dangerous, even for her. Hearing that there might be another expedition in the future, the girl's eyes immediately lit up with excitement. A powerful purple aura suddenly erupted from her body, revealing her incredible cultivation. The old master could only shake his head helplessly, realizing his disciple was already eager to leave the mountain and experience the outside world. Back inside the forbidden forest, the temperature dropped rapidly as night deepened. Sitting high in the tree, the student slowly opened his eyes from meditation. It was his first time facing truly dangerous wild beasts, so even he felt slightly nervous. At that moment, the system's voice echoed in his mind. "Congratulations, host. Your mastery of the Ghost Valley breathing technique has improved. Synchronization rate increased by 2%. Overall abilities increased by 20 points." The student froze for a moment before realizing something important. Training martial arts and techniques related to the character he was imitating could also increase his synchronization rate. That meant swordsmanship, movement skills, breathing arts, and combat styles all contributed to his growth. Even though there was a limit to how much these techniques could raise synchronization, it was still an enormous advantage. Suddenly, the live stream chat exploded again. A group of leopards had appeared beneath the trees. The audience instantly panicked as the predators circled below. High above them, both the student and Satoru Gojo quietly held their breath. The leopards themselves were dangerous enough, but what truly worried them was the possibility that even worse creatures might be nearby. After all, this was only the outer edge of the Xiangxi 100,000 Mountains. One leopard growled toward the trees before eventually leading the pack away into the darkness. Neither of them moved to attack. The student had briefly considered testing the power of his flying sword technique, but he quickly dismissed the idea. There would be plenty of opportunities later in the expedition. Wasting energy now would be foolish. The live stream audience sighed in relief after the beasts disappeared. Many viewers admitted that if the student and Satoru Gojo had stayed on the ground, they probably would have become the leopard's dinner. Once the forest became quiet again, the student resumed practicing the Ghost Valley breathing technique. As he trained, he could clearly feel the warm current flowing through his body becoming stronger and denser. The cultivation method was steadily transforming him from the inside out. The next morning, Satoru Gojo finally spoke about their next destination, Pingshan Mountain. The student immediately became serious. Legends claimed that terrifying corpse kings and forbidden creatures were hidden within that mountain. Every step inside it was said to be deadly. The live stream audience also grew excited after hearing the name. According to the map, all 5 teams would eventually gather there before exploring the mountain together. Over the next day, the pair continued traveling deeper into the forest. They encountered only small beasts, which they easily turned into meals along the way. By nightfall, they once again rested high among the branches of enormous trees. Under the moonlight, the student continued cultivating his breathing technique. Then the system suddenly spoke again. Ghost Valley breathing technique has reached the ultimate stage. Special ability awakened, Ghost Eyes. A powerful surge of energy exploded through his body. The warm current inside him became more than 10 times stronger than before, and a new status screen appeared before his eyes. His synchronization rate had risen to 54%. His overall abilities had doubled, surpassing 100 times that of an ordinary human. The completion of the Ghost Valley breathing technique had transformed his body completely, strengthening both his internal energy and physical power. At that moment, he felt as though he could kill a bull with a single punch. Curious, he immediately asked the system about the newly awakened ghost eyes. The system explained that the ability allowed him to see perfectly in darkness and that it would continue evolving as his synchronization rate increased. The student activated the skill instantly. A burning sensation spread through his eyes, and suddenly the dark forest became as clear as daytime. Every tree, branch, and shadow sharpened before him with unbelievable clarity. He inhaled sharply in excitement. This ability was practically the perfect support skill for surviving forbidden zones like Pingshan Mountain. After calming himself, he realized his breathing technique had already reached its peak. The next ability he needed to strengthen was his flying sword technique. As this thought crossed his mind, the ancient sword beside him suddenly trembled softly, almost as if it were responding to his fighting spirit and urging him to draw it. Deep into the night, he continued training in silence. Then, sometime after midnight, a faint strange sound suddenly echoed through the forest, instantly jolting him awake. The student activated his newly awakened ghost eyes and looked into the forest below. Dozens of pitch-black snakes were slithering silently toward them. These snakes came from Pingshan Mountain, Satoru Gojo said coldly. The student's expression changed slightly. Pingshan Mountain was rumored to be the resting place of a terrifying corpse king, but according to the legends he knew, the mountain should have been filled with poisonous insects and curses, not endless black snakes. It became clear that this world's version of Pingshan Mountain was very different from the stories of his previous life. The live stream instantly exploded with panic. Viewers watched in horror as more and more black snakes emerged from the darkness. Their green eyes glowed eerily beneath the moonlight, and the sheer number of them made everyone's scalp tingle with fear. Yet strangely, the snakes did not attack immediately. Instead, they surrounded the area while staring upward at the two men in the trees. Something felt wrong. The student narrowed his eyes and pushed his ghost eyes to their limit. Warm energy surged through his body as his vision sharpened. Then he saw it. Behind the countless snakes stood a mysterious old man dressed in ragged clothing. His body was hidden beneath a tattered cloak, making him look ghostly and unnatural. The student's eyes instantly became serious. The snakes were not acting on their own. Someone was controlling them. The real threat is the guardian of Pingshan Mountain, Satoru Gojo said quietly. Guardian? The student muttered. A guardian meant someone tasked with protecting the corpse king hidden within the mountain. Meanwhile, the livestream viewers could only see the snakes. Since they lacked ghost eyes, the mysterious old man remained invisible to them. Still, many audience members already suspected that the snakes were being manipulated by some hidden force. At that moment, Satoru Gojo moved. He reached into his bag and scattered a yellow powder across the ground. Realgar. Everyone knew snakes feared it. As the powder spread through the air, the black snakes hissed loudly and retreated several meters backward. However, they still refused to leave completely. Instead, they lingered outside the range of the powder, surrounding the trees while making chilling hissing noises that echoed through the forest. The atmosphere instantly became suffocating. For the first time, even Satoru Gojo looked serious. His hand slowly moved toward the black blade at his waist. The student immediately understood something important. Satoru Gojo could not see the old man controlling the snakes. Only the ghost eyes allowed him to detect the hidden figure. The live stream audience also sensed the tension. The entire broadcast focused solely on the pair as viewers anxiously spammed comments, terrified that the snakes might attack at any second. Then, just as Satoru Gojo prepared to draw his blade, the student suddenly jumped down from the tree. Everyone froze. The live stream chat exploded instantly. People screamed in panic, convinced he had just committed suicide by leaping directly into a nest of deadly snakes. Even Satoru Gojo tightened his grip on his weapon, clearly ready to intervene if necessary. But the student merely inhaled slowly and placed his hand upon the hilt of his sword. The moment his fingers touched the weapon, his entire presence transformed. The carefree college student disappeared. In his place stood a proud swordsman dressed in flowing white, radiating a sharp and lonely aura that felt capable of cutting through the heavens themselves. Invisible sword energy burst outward from his body, causing everyone watching to feel chills run down their spines. At that moment, the audience no longer saw an ordinary boy. They saw a true sword master. 100-step flying sword, the student said coldly. His blade instantly left its sheath. A crimson flash exploded through the darkness. The student's body shot forward like lightning, crossing over 30 meters in the blink of an eye. Wherever he passed, massive trees were sliced cleanly apart as though struck by an invisible force. Then silence fell over the forest. Moments later, blood suddenly splattered onto the ground where the hidden old man had been standing. At the same time, every black snake retreated in terror before vanishing into the darkness. One sword strike had forced the enemy to flee. The live stream remained completely silent for several seconds before erupting into absolute chaos. Nobody could believe what they had witnessed. The replay footage was slowed down repeatedly, allowing viewers to finally see the terrifying details of the attack. The instant the student unsheathed his sword, a terrifying sword aura spread around him. Anything that touched that invisible force was instantly cut apart. The production crew themselves were stunned. If that wasn't sword energy, then nothing else could explain what happened. Even more shocking was the fact that the student had attacked an enemy nobody else could see. Although the camera captured no person standing there, blood had clearly appeared on the ground after the strike. The program director stared at the replay with disbelief. The title for this week's highlight clip is Decided, he declared excitedly. The young sword master, 1/ to defeat the enemy. Across the internet, the mysterious student instantly became the center of attention. At Wudong sect, the young martial artist Hong Xiaoyan watched the livestream in complete shock. Even her master, the old martial arts expert, was speechless after witnessing the terrifying sword aura. He initially suspected the student belonged to the legendary Kunlun sect, a sect famous for swordsmanship. After a long silence, the old master finally sighed heavily. I underestimated him. At this rate, who will even come to Wudong to become disciples next year? He complained helplessly. Beside him, Hong Xiaoyan grinned mischievously while staring at the screen. That big brother from the Kunlun sect is pretty handsome. The old master immediately glared at her and snorted. Stop thinking nonsense, you silly girl. Meanwhile, deep inside the Xiangxi 100,000 mountains, the student heard the system notification echo in his mind. Congratulations, host. Using 100-step flying sword has increased your synchronization rate. Sword technique proficiency increased. The student's eyes brightened instantly. Just a single attack had raised both his synchronization and his sword mastery. It became obvious that frequent combat and continuous use of sword techniques were the fastest ways to strengthen himself. Opening his status panel, he discovered his synchronization rate had already climbed to 56%, while his overall physical abilities had reached more than 112 times that of an ordinary person. If he continued fighting powerful enemies, breaking past 60% synchronization might happen very soon. Looks like I need more opponents, he muttered casually before returning to his tree to sleep. Nearby, Satoru Gojo silently watched him with a complicated expression. He finally admitted to himself that this mysterious student was far stronger than he originally imagined. Even he had felt pressured by the terrifying sword aura from earlier. Meanwhile, the livestream audience had become completely obsessed with the student. The same viewers who once mocked him were now passionately defending him online. Countless fans flooded the chat with praise, declaring that he was the strongest contestant among all 10 explorers. The next morning, Satoru Gojo casually tossed half a roasted chicken toward the student after waking up. The student accepted it without hesitation and began eating while reviewing information about Pingshan Mountain. From their conversation, he learned that even Satoru Gojo was focused mainly on the legendary corpse king hidden within the mountain. After breakfast, the two continued advancing deeper into the forest. Among all 5 teams, they were traveling the fastest and had already taken the lead. As they walked, the student began practicing his swordsmanship. He repeatedly trained the vertical sword technique while moving through the forest. Soon, the system notified him again. Practicing vertical sword technique increased synchronization by 0.2%. Sword proficiency increased. Although the gains were far smaller compared to actual combat, they were still useful. During peaceful moments, he obviously could not unleash large-scale attacks like 100-step flying sword everywhere. The live stream audience became fascinated watching him practice tirelessly every day. Many viewers praised his discipline, claiming that his terrifying sword aura was clearly the result of relentless training rather than pure talent. Across the country, young people even began imitating his movements in parks and public squares. Thousands of viewers started carrying wooden swords while replaying clips from the live stream and attempting to learn his techniques themselves. A nationwide sword training craze quietly began. Over the following days, the student maintained a strict routine. During the daytime, he practiced sword techniques. At night, he cultivated the Ghost Valley breathing technique. Both abilities steadily advanced toward the middle stage. One evening, while practicing beneath the moonlight, he noticed that Satoru Gojo had silently memorized many of his sword movements simply by watching. The student did not mind at all. "Learn it if you want," he said calmly. "This sword art was never truly mine anyway." The live stream instantly exploded with admiration. Many viewers praised his generosity and broad-mindedness, believing true masters should never selfishly hide martial arts from others. Some even began calling him a modern sword saint. Then suddenly, the system's voice echoed again. "Congratulations, host. Title acquired, Sword Saint." His synchronization rate immediately surged upward once more. 76%. At the same time, his overall abilities skyrocketed to more than 150 times that of a normal human. The student's expression shifted slightly. He did not need to guess where the title came from. The live stream audience had clearly started calling him Sword Saint, and somehow the system recognized that reputation as part of his role synchronization. As he looked toward Satoru Gojo, another thought crossed his mind. The vertical sword technique he practiced was only one side of a greater sword system. There was also the horizontal sword technique, a more ruthless and unpredictable style. And strangely enough, he felt that style would suit Satoru Gojo perfectly. At that moment, Satoru Gojo suddenly stopped walking. "We've arrived," he said quietly. The student raised his head. Under the night sky stood an enormous mountain shrouded in mist. Its shape was bizarre and unnatural, wide at the top and narrow at the bottom, resembling an upside-down bottle planted into the earth. Thick clouds wrapped around the mountain halfway up, making it appear ghostly and distorted beneath the moonlight. Just staring at it filled people with unease. Pingshan Mountain. The student's fighting spirit immediately rose. He could not help wondering whether the legendary corpse king hidden inside could survive a strike from his sword. However, Satoru Gojo calmly explained the rules. According to the program, all 10 contestants had to enter Pingshan Mountain together. Entering early alone would count as mission failure. The student quickly understood the real meaning behind the rule. Pingshan Mountain marked the boundary beyond 100 kilometers into the Forbidden Zone. Once they crossed that line, the true deadly part of the expedition would finally begin. The student quickly understood the true intention behind the program's rules. The organizers wanted all 10 contestants to enter Pingshan Mountain together because it would create chaos. Once everyone crossed the 100-kilometer boundary, conflict between teams would become inevitable. And for a live broadcast, nothing was more exciting than contestants turning against one another. "We'll wait here for the others," Satoru Gojo said calmly. "Tonight we rest outside Pingshan Mountain. The mountain guardian already warned us yesterday. He'll probably come again." The student merely shrugged. After taking a direct strike from 100-step flying sword, the guardian was most likely injured already. If he dared to return tonight, the student had no problem cutting him down again. Without another word, both of them leaped onto separate trees to rest. Meanwhile, the live stream audience was filled with tension and excitement. Everyone stared nervously at the strange silhouette of Pingshan Mountain beneath the moonlight. The mountain's upside-down shape looked deeply unnatural, and legends claimed nobody who entered ever returned alive. Still, many viewers remained strangely confident. If anyone can survive, it's Lin Bai and Satoru Gojo, countless comments declared. Sitting cross-legged upon the tree branch, the student activated the Ghost Valley breathing technique once more. Almost instantly, streams of spiritual energy began flowing toward him from the surrounding forest. A faint glow slowly appeared around his body, making him shine softly beneath the night sky. The live stream exploded again. People could not believe a human body was actually emitting light. Some viewers joked that he might secretly be cultivating immortality, while others insisted it had to be some ancient breathing technique from martial arts legends. Far away at Wudong sect, Hong Xiaoyan stared at the screen in shock before turning toward her master. What kind of cultivation technique is that? The old master watched silently for several seconds before finally answering with a serious expression. It's an ancient breathing art, an extremely profound one. When Hong Xiaoyan compared it to Wudong's famous purple mist technique, the old master admitted it was difficult to judge which was superior. However, he also acknowledged that the student's technique possessed terrifying depth and mystery, enough to rival legendary martial arts passed down through ancient sects. Back at Pingshan Mountain, the student slowly opened his eyes after finishing another cycle of cultivation. The system immediately sounded again. Synchronization increased by 2%. Ghost Valley breathing technique proficiency increased. The student quickly calculated that he would need many more sessions before fully mastering the technique's next stage. But before he could continue thinking, a faint movement suddenly echoed through the darkness. His eyes narrowed instantly. Was the mountain guardian back? At the same moment, Satoru Gojo silently appeared beside him, his hand already resting upon the black blade strapped to his back. Then the livestream camera suddenly switched to another team. Two contestants were fleeing in terror through the forest while several horrifying creatures chased after them. The audience screamed. The monsters moved stiffly, hopping unnaturally instead of walking. Their pale bodies looked dead. Zombies. One contestant immediately pulled out a gun and fired several shots before escaping with his teammate. They abandoned most of their supplies in pure panic. At the same time, every other team across the Forbidden Zone also encountered similar creatures. Chaos spread everywhere as contestants desperately fled from monsters they had never seen before. Back outside Pingshan Mountain, the student and Satoru Gojo remained hidden high among the branches. 6 hopping corpses were approaching directly toward them. "These are zombies," Satoru Gojo said coldly. The student activated Ghost Eyes immediately. The creatures were indeed reanimated corpses. Their bodies were stiff, but they possessed terrifying strength. The livestream viewers were horrified. Other teams only faced 1 or 2 zombies. But Lin Bai and Satoru Gojo were facing 6 at once. It was obvious the mountain guardian specifically targeted them after yesterday's battle. The audience watched anxiously as the 6 corpses hopped closer and closer beneath the trees. Then Satoru Gojo prepared to attack. But suddenly, the student grabbed his arm. "Wait," he said quietly. Satoru Gojo immediately sensed something was wrong. Using Ghost Eyes, the student could see much farther into the darkness than anyone else. Behind the 6 zombies, 2 far more terrifying creatures were slowly emerging from the forest. Their bodies were covered in rotting flesh and dripping blood. Worms crawled across their faces, while their bulging eyes hung loosely from ruined sockets. The live-stream audience nearly vomited from horror. Even Satoru Gojo's expression changed slightly. Blood corpses. Unlike ordinary zombies, blood corpses were much faster and far more dangerous. A foul mixture of blood and decay filled the air as the creatures approached. Then suddenly, the blood corpses noticed them. At that exact moment, the student calmly put away his sword, tightened his grip, and jumped down from the tree once again. The student and Satoru Gojo moved at the same time. "One side each," the student said calmly. Without realizing it, the 2-man team had naturally formed around him as the leader. The live-stream audience held their breath as the student gripped the crimson blade in his hand. 100-step flying sword. A cold light flashed through the darkness. The sword slashed downward with terrifying speed, instantly splitting one zombie apart before it could even react. Violent sword energy burst outward several meters, while a sharp spiritual aura erupted from the student's body. The live stream exploded instantly. Lin Bai is too handsome. That sword strike was insane. Did you even see the speed of that attack? The entire movement was smooth and elegant, almost impossible for ordinary eyes to follow. At the same time, Satoru Gojo attacked as well. His black blade descended heavily, cutting another zombie apart with pure overwhelming force. The audience immediately became excited. These horrifying monsters that had terrified every other team were being slaughtered effortlessly by the pair. Still, the danger was far from over. 4 zombies remained. Meanwhile, the 2 terrifying blood corpses continued approaching from the darkness. The atmosphere became tense again. After cutting down another zombie, Satoru Gojo's breathing grew slightly heavier as the remaining monsters surrounded them. The student suddenly remembered the mountain guardian and turned toward him. What exactly is the guardian of Pingshan Mountain? Satoru Gojo answered coldly. A slave of the corpse king. An undead corpse master. The student's mouth twitched. This mountain was becoming more ridiculous by the minute. Between corpse kings, zombie slaves, blood corpses, and undead guardians, it felt less like a mountain and more like a nest of nightmares. The remaining zombies suddenly lunged toward them. The student moved like flowing water. His sword flashed once. Another zombie collapsed instantly. The livestream viewers only managed to catch a blurry figure passing through the darkness before 2 corpses hit the ground. Meanwhile, Satoru Gojo fought in a completely different style. He wielded the black blade with brutal strength, smashing through enemies with overwhelming force. After 2 powerful strikes, the last zombies finally collapsed. All 6 monsters had been eliminated. The livestream chat exploded once again. Other teams were desperately fleeing from just 1 or 2 zombies. Yet Lin Bai and Satoru Gojo had wiped out 6 of them without suffering any injuries. Many viewers immediately began mocking the other contestants, especially the arrogant ninja master who had previously looked down on the student. Then Satoru Gojo spoke again. There are still 2 blood corpses left. The student glanced toward the grotesque creatures and replied casually, "I'll handle both." The live stream erupted. The audience could not believe he planned to face the terrifying blood corpses alone. At that moment, the system's voice echoed inside his head. 100-step flying sword proficiency increased. The student's eyes lit up instantly. Ever since the technique reached the middle stage, increasing its mastery had become extremely difficult. Even deadly combat only increased proficiency slightly, making every battle precious. The blood corpses opened their mouths and released ear-piercing screeches while rushing toward him. The student slowly raised his crimson sword. This time, however, he activated the Ghost Valley breathing technique together with the sword attack. Golden light instantly appeared upon the blade. Violent spiritual energy exploded outward, causing sand and leaves to swirl around him wildly. The terrifying sword aura distorted the air itself. The livestream audience was stunned speechless. Sword energy. Real sword energy. Before anyone could react, the student moved. Too fast. The golden sword aura pierced directly through both blood corpses in an instant. Boom. The 2 creatures exploded apart violently, turning into showers of blood and rotten flesh. Move! The student shouted immediately. He and Satoru Gojo instantly retreated backward as corrosive blood rained onto the ground. Thick smoke rose from the earth wherever the blood landed, while grass and trees withered instantly. The audience stared in horror. The blood corpse's blood was practically acidic. Yet what truly shocked them was the student's sword strike. The replay clips spread across the internet almost immediately. The young sword Saint battles blood corpses. 1 sword strike destroys 2 blood corpses. Cultivators really exist? The slowed-down footage clearly revealed the golden sword aura flowing across the crimson blade, completely overturning the worldview of countless viewers. Many people genuinely began believing that immortals and cultivators truly existed in the modern world. The system's voice rang out again. 100-step flying sword proficiency increased. The student merely glanced at the remains of the blood corpses and sighed softly. They were weaker than I expected. Just then, movement appeared in the forest. Several figures rushed toward them. That was when the other teams arrived. It's you too. Lu Tianghua spotted you first. Behind him was Daiki, clothes torn and battered, looking thoroughly disheveled. For a powerhouse fighter, Daiki had never in his life encountered anything like this, the dead walking and rising again. The fact that he hadn't been scared, completely stiff, was already saying something. Daiki is so done. I know, he looks like he's questioning his entire life choices. Compared to Daiki, Lu Tianghua was considerably more composed. Behind him came Ninja Master Toji Inumaki, followed by the ancient martial arts Master Gu Outyen and the girl known as Butterfly Blood. The live stream buzzed. The appearance of the cursed corpses had finally driven all 4 of the other teams to converge in the same location. Our ninja is here. Inumaki claimed he couldn't leave a 100-mile radius on his own. I wonder what he's thinking now. Inumaki's expression was dark, but there was something uneasy beneath it. He glanced behind him, exhaled quietly when he confirmed his followers hadn't trailed him here, and steadied himself. So the 2 of you ran all the way here as well, Inumaki said evenly, his voice carrying a cool edge. You gave him a brief, disinterested glance. Gojo's expression remained utterly flat, not even a flicker of interest in Inumaki's direction. Ran here? He thinks our Gojo ran? I'm furious. This winter ninja has always annoyed me, and now he has the nerve to provoke our Gojo? Give him 1 slash, let him taste the wind. The entire live stream simmered with indignation. You had just cut down 8 zombies and slaughtered 2 blood corpses, and Inumaki still had the audacity to imply you had fled here in a panic like the rest of them. Your fans were furious. Your presence in the stream had grown enormous. Virtually every female viewer claimed you, and most of the male viewers admired you too, save for a sour few. The people outside could never see her real face. Most people believed she hid herself out of mystery, but only Maki Zenin knew the truth. Since childhood, she had always covered herself with a loose black robe because she was deeply ashamed of her appearance. Even after growing older, she never appeared in public without hiding behind the dark cloak. The outside world called her mysterious, but in reality, she simply lacked the courage to show her face. When Satoru Gojo mocked her, his words struck directly at her insecurities. Seeing her furious reaction, he even started wondering if he had accidentally guessed the truth. Otherwise, why would she react so violently? The viewers watching the live stream immediately exploded with laughter and comments. Maki's eyes burned with rage. Seeing Gojo standing there effortlessly handsome and calm only made her hatred toward him grow stronger. At the same time, everyone was still shaken by the cursed corpses they had just encountered deep within the mountains. Many had believed the monsters were only legends, but now they had seen them with their own eyes. Some participants even started worrying that once they entered Mount Pingshan, they might encounter an even more terrifying Curse King. Despite the tension, Satoru Gojo and Megumi Fushiguro remained completely calm while observing the others. Earlier on, Gojo had actually admired some of the contestants: the martial arts champion, the elite soldier, and the mysterious assassin-like fighters. Yet now, those same people looked terrified, while Gojo and Megumi appeared relaxed and untouched. The others had no idea what the 2 of them had done the previous night. If they had witnessed Gojo and Megumi slaughtering the cursed corpses with ease, their jaws would have dropped. Ironically, the 2 people everyone had underestimated the most were currently the calmest among the group. One contestant finally pointed it out. Both Gojo and Megumi were spotless, especially Gojo, whose white outfit looked as if he had just stepped out of a fantasy world untouched by dust or blood. The others couldn't understand it. Had the 2 of them somehow avoided danger completely? At that moment, Nobara Kujisaki walked toward Gojo with a teasing smile. Dressed in red, she asked sweetly whether they had encountered any cursed corpses at all. The live stream instantly exploded with jealousy and excitement from viewers shipping the 2 together. Nobara herself was famous among the contestants. She was known as the Queen of the Desert, someone who had survived ancient cursed ruins and deadly expeditions. Yet even someone as hardened as her felt slightly flustered standing beside Gojo. His appearance and calm confidence were overwhelming. The other contestants quickly convinced themselves that Gojo and Megumi must simply have been lucky enough not to encounter any monsters. Otherwise, how could they still look so clean? But the livestream viewers knew better. They had personally watched Gojo destroy multiple cursed corpses with overwhelming power. To the audience, his innocent act was hilarious. Soon, Kento Nanami stepped forward and called for everyone to calm down. Thanks to his military-like composure, he had already recovered from the earlier chaos. He pointed out that every team had suffered attacks and that they needed to discuss how to deal with the cursed corpses before entering the mountain. Another martial arts expert agreed and admitted that the monsters were terrifying. Even powerful punches barely affected them. The creatures possessed incredible strength and almost no physical weaknesses. One contestant complained that even gunfire had failed to stop them. While everyone else panicked and argued, Gojo was casually leaning against a tree with his eyes closed as if nothing could threaten him. Beside him, Megumi Fushiguro quietly narrowed his eyes. He already understood the truth. The cursed corpses were being controlled by the mysterious mountain guardian. Since Gojo had injured that guardian the night before and destroyed several monsters afterward, there was little chance the enemy would attack recklessly again. When one contestant challenged that idea, Gojo lazily pointed at his own head and joked that the man should use his brain a little more. The live stream burst into laughter once again, and nearly every viewer's attention remained fixed entirely on him. "What did you just say?" Aoi Tadu growled, his eyes filled with anger. In his mind, Gojo was openly insulting him, basically calling him all muscle and no brains. Tadu might have been terrified of the cursed corpses from earlier, but he certainly wasn't afraid of what looked like an ordinary college student. Gojo simply yawned and replied calmly that if the cursed corpses truly wanted to kill them, then this group of idiots would already be dead. He told everyone to stop panicking and get some sleep because tomorrow they would finally enter Mount Pingshan. The live stream viewers burst into laughter and praise. "That's my Gojo. So savage. He destroyed them with one sentence." Even though several contestants looked annoyed, deep down they had to admit he had a point. Ever since they arrived near Gojo and Megumi Fushiguro, the cursed corpses had mysteriously disappeared. Of course, none of them believed it had anything to do with the two sorcerers themselves. Nobara Kujisaki quietly agreed with Gojo's opinion before leaning against a nearby tree to rest. Rebuilding shelters for the night was no longer possible anyway. Soon, the others also gave up arguing and scattered to recover their energy. The livestream viewers were practically worshipping Gojo at this point. Many complained that the others were useless baggage and wished the program would just let Gojo explore Mount Pingshan alone. The night passed quietly. The next morning, Gojo woke up and was immediately handed a roasted chicken. This time, however, it wasn't from Megumi. Standing before him with a playful smile was Nobara Kujisaki. At almost the exact same moment, Megumi also arrived holding roasted chickens, though he had been slightly slower than Nobara. The live stream immediately went wild. "Megumi is jealous. You can feel the tension. Gojo, stay strong." Gojo nearly rolled his eyes. These viewers really imagined the strangest things. Still, he accepted Megumi's roasted chicken first. After all, they were teammates, and Gojo jokingly thought that Nobara, being dangerous enough already, might poison him just for fun. Nobara pouted dramatically before walking away. Meanwhile, the other contestants got ready for breakfast. Seeing Gojo casually eating roasted chicken while everyone else struggled immediately reignited their jealousy. Some of them couldn't understand why the only girl among the contestants seemed especially friendly toward him. One bitter contestant muttered sarcastically that being handsome apparently solved everything. The live stream audience instantly mocked him for sounding jealous. Half an hour later, everyone finished preparing and gathered before Mount Pingshan. The atmosphere grew serious again as Kento Nanami stepped forward. He reminded everyone that Mount Pingshan was one of the deadliest forbidden regions in the entire mountain range. According to legend, nobody who entered had ever returned alive. Another contestant added that because of the danger, The group needed unity if they wanted any chance of survival. And if they wanted unity, they first needed a leader. The moment the word leader was mentioned, the atmosphere instantly changed. Nobody there was willing to submit to someone else. The live stream audience immediately began spamming Gojo's name. Only Gojo deserves it. Make Gojo the leader. Or Megumi. But Gojo himself showed zero interest. In his eyes, leading this chaotic group sounded exhausting. A king leading a bunch of clueless rookies? No thanks. Nanami calmly recommended himself instead. He argued that after 18 years as a disciplined soldier and leader, both his strength and character qualified him for the role. Several contestants immediately looked unhappy. Nanami was capable, but none of them believed they were inferior. Then Nobara stepped forward with a teasing smile, claiming she also wanted the leader position. She proudly declared that she had once commanded hundreds of mercenaries in the desert and had more than enough experience. Before the argument could escalate further, Suguru Geto suddenly interrupted everyone. With a cold expression, he formed a strange hand sign. The next moment, his entire body vanished. Everyone froze. He disappeared? What kind of technique is that? Is this actual sorcery? The live stream exploded into chaos again. Even Gojo paused slightly in surprise. But the instant he activated his 6 eyes, he could still clearly see Geto moving through the crowd unseen. Then suddenly, golden cursed energy wrapped around Tadu like chains. Tadu's expression changed instantly as he struggled to break free, but the more he resisted, the tighter the energy became. A second later, he was slammed violently onto the ground. Geto's cold voice echoed through the forest. This is true jujitsu. A look of contempt filled his eyes. To him, it was ridiculous that an ordinary college student would dare challenge him. It felt like asking for death. The struggling group finally spoke up as the golden energy surrounding them faded. One by one, everyone agreed. The mysterious abilities displayed by the arrogant leader amazed them. Invisibility, strange powers, and overwhelming control that no one seemed able to escape. The crowd began praising his strength, convinced that victory would belong to him and that his power would soon become known to the world. The arrogant man's gaze soon landed on Yuji Itadori and Megumi Fushiguro, filled with disdain. In everyone's eyes, they looked like the weakest pair among the contestants. One a quiet, serious fighter and the other just an ordinary student. Many believed that without luck, the two of them would have already died in the forest. Staring at Megumi, the man confidently called him out by name, saying that Megumi still had value and should follow his orders. He smugly claimed he wouldn't target him unfairly and believed Megumi would naturally abandon Yuji after seeing true power. Meanwhile, the audience watching from the live stream exploded with anger. They worried that Yuji was being isolated and wondered if Megumi would leave him behind. Furious comments flooded the stream, mocking the arrogant man and defending Yuji, insisting that real strength couldn't simply be measured by flashy powers. Then, Megumi calmly stepped forward and rejected the proposal. "I disagree," he said in a quiet but firm voice. Standing beside him, Yuji also refused to back down. He looked directly at the arrogant man with unwavering determination. Their defiance instantly enraged him. Furious, he mocked Megumi for sticking with someone he considered dead weight and accused him of making a foolish decision. The others also pressured Megumi, insisting he should abandon Yuji and survive on his own. To them, Yuji was just an ordinary college student with no real presence, someone who had stumbled into the competition through luck. Ignoring him entirely, they focused on convincing Megumi to join their side. Yuji scratched his nose and let out a faint smile. He suddenly remembered that he was still a hot-blooded young man at heart. Being underestimated this badly irritated him. He wanted to stay low-key, sure, but disappearing into the background completely? That didn't sit right with him. Before he could say much, the arrogant leader mocked him again, sarcastically asking if Yuji also planned to become the leader. Secretly, the man had already decided that once they entered deeper danger, he would find a chance to get rid of Yuji and make him regret ever opposing him. Yuji stood up confidently and smiled. "Actually, yeah," he said. "I do want to lead." The live stream instantly exploded with excitement. Fans cheered for Yuji, demanding the camera's focus on him. The producers quickly shifted attention toward him, eager not to miss a single movement after viewers became obsessed with his fighting style. But another fighter burst into laughter and mocked Yuji openly. He sneered at the idea of an ordinary student leading them and declared he was the first to oppose it. If Yuji wanted respect, he said, then he would have to defeat him first. The live stream audience immediately turned against the loudmouth challenger, ridiculing him and calling him arrogant for provoking Yuji. Many viewers already knew Yuji's true strength and laughed at the challenger's confidence, saying he had no idea what he was walking into. The challenger stepped forward arrogantly, cracking his knuckles and bragging that he could crush Yuji with one hand. His attitude only made viewers mock him harder. Yuji calmly stepped forward in response. A sharp, proud aura surrounded him as he stood tall, carrying himself with quiet confidence. For a brief moment, he looked completely different, like someone whose entire spirit revolved around battle itself. Even the people around him were caught off guard. Some stared in surprise, while viewers online completely lost their minds, flooding the chat with praise and jokes about how cool Yuji suddenly looked. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, camera operators locked onto him from every angle, determined not to miss whatever happened next. The challenger narrowed his eyes with anger. As a proud fighter confident in his own abilities, he couldn't tolerate being looked down on, and now, he prepared to make Yuji pay. Deep down, he had to admit that Yuji Itadori's presence was overwhelming, but in his eyes Yuji was still just an ordinary college student recklessly provoking someone far stronger than him. To do, this deadly exploration game was no place for someone like Yuji. Kokichi Muta smirked coldly from the side. Yuji is asking for death, he sneered. Even though we're still within the safe zone, if To-Do cripples him here, nobody will stop it. And once he's injured in these mountains, he'll probably become food for cursed beasts. The live stream audience instantly exploded with anger. What a vicious thing to say. Yuji, destroy him. Ever since To-Do had become a 3-time martial arts champion, nobody had dared to challenge him so openly. Especially not someone he considered a normal student. In To-Do's mind, one punch would be enough to destroy Yuji completely. With a loud boom, To-Do stepped forward. The force of his movement sent dust and stones flying across the ground. Everyone watching could feel the terrifying pressure coming from him. The other contestants' expressions changed immediately. To-Do wasn't only strong, his speed and flexibility were equally frightening. Most martial artists relied on technique, but To-Do possessed monstrous physical power while still moving with incredible agility. That combination made him terrifying. Yuji's eyes sharpened. The others watched silently, while Megumi frowned slightly. He had considered stepping in to help, but he already knew Yuji didn't need anyone's assistance. In Megumi's eyes, To-Do challenging Yuji was simply suicidal. The live stream chat became chaotic. Yuji's about to move. Wake that idiot up, Yuji. Yet despite To-Do charging directly toward him, Yuji stood there calmly and motionless, as though he didn't even notice the attack coming. Some of the contestants secretly sighed. To them, Yuji looked frozen in fear. Kokichi Muta's smile widened even more. He already imagined Yuji lying broken on the ground moments later. Then, just as To-Do's massive fist reached Yuji's face, Yuji moved. Speed defeats all techniques, he said calmly. He raised one hand casually and caught To-Do's punch. Everyone froze. To-Do's fist was nearly twice the size of Yuji's hand, yet Yuji stopped it effortlessly. The gigantic punch couldn't move forward even an inch. But Yuji wasn't finished. In the next second, he swept his leg out with terrifying force. To-Do suddenly felt as though he had been struck by a speeding truck. His entire body spun violently before crashing into the ground. Blood sprayed from To-Do's mouth together with several shattered teeth. The entire battlefield fell silent. Nobody understood what had just happened. Yuji had moved too fast. At this point, Yuji's physical abilities had already surpassed normal humans by an absurd amount. For him, defeating ordinary fighters was effortless. Even someone as powerful as To-Do was insignificant before him. The live stream viewers completely lost control. What just happened? To-do got destroyed. Yuji didn't even use his sword. Even Megumi looked completely unsurprised, as though everything had gone exactly as expected. Then the camera shifted toward To-do. Everyone finally saw the full scene. To-do was pinned flat against the ground, struggling desperately while Yuji casually stepped on his back with one foot. No matter how hard To-do struggled, he couldn't break free. His face had already turned red from humiliation. The live stream erupted with excitement. Step on him harder. Teach him a lesson. Back in the production room, even the directors were stunned. More than 10 camera operators immediately switched angles to capture every detail of Yuji's dominance. One of the directors quickly spoke. Save this footage for the weekly highlights. Alright, that's the end of today's madness. If you enjoyed watching Yuji completely dominate those cursed monsters and arrogant fighters, make sure to smash that like button and drop a comment below with your favorite moment from the story. And if you want to see part 2, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss it. Also, share this video with your anime crew and check out the channel for more crazy anime recaps and action-packed stories just like this one. Catch you in the next one.